Been warning for a very long time about America's entitlement culture. It is growing at an alarming rate and threatens the existence of our republic. There is a guy who I met when I first read this. Actually, I didn't remember at the time. I had read his #1 New York Times bestseller about 20 years prior to this, and now he has a guide on how to teach our children about the importance of free enterprise and earned ownership. Richard Eyre, author of The Entitlement Trap, also author of The 3 Deceivers, which is another book on how parents can shape their perspectives of their own life, and also the author of Teaching Your Children Values, which 20 years ago I went into a bookstore and picked up.
You picked it up. You had your first child. Now you got 4.
Exactly right. So tell me about, because what we're seeing all over the world now, but specifically really in America, people who...
We're the epicenter of it.
Right. Yeah. And it's the Western way of life of, well, I went to school, I got a trophy, everybody got a trophy.
Everybody gets a trophy.
I got my college degree, and now what? You owe me.
Exactly. And this is the bad news, Glenn, and it's not news to you, but the worst of all the problem is with our young kids. The ones who are 5, 6, 7, 8, who think they deserve everything. I mean, you know what's happening on Wall Street? These are kids who have grown up a little more, but who haven't really grown up because they still think the way to get anything is to demand it, right? And I deserve it because I'm a rock star in my own world. I've got my Facebook page. I've got...
But it's really not their... It's not their fault, really, is it? I mean, we gave them trophies. We gave everybody a trophy.
That's what we go and preach to parents. And here's the funny thing. When we poll parents and we say, whose fault is it that your kids have got these entitlement attitudes, 80% of them on an anonymous poll admit that it's their fault. It's the parents' fault. Because whatever they want, we don't want some other kid to have more than they do. When they come to us and say, well, my cell phone's 4 months old, I'm embarrassed. So we get them a new one, you know, and it just goes on and on.
Shouldn't that be an alarm bell?
Oh, absolutely. A huge alarm bell, because it's not just that they're annoying. I mean, nothing's more annoying than an entitled kid, an entitled 7 or 8-year-old. But the tragedy of it, Glenn, is that it's taking away their incentive. It's taking away their motivation. It's taking away... I mean, of all people, you know this. It's socialism within the home.
Right.
That's what it is.
How do we teach it to our kids? Because even, I mean, my kids, I don't remember what it was. Something broke, a toy or something broke in the last month. And my son said, I heard him say to his sister, we'll just get another one.
Yeah, sure.
And I walked in the room and I said, oh, no, we won't.
Yeah.
Oh, no, we won't.
Exactly.
You want to get another one? You earn the money
for it.
So now how do you do that?
I'll tell you a quick story. This is sort of the genesis of this book many years ago. I'm laying in bed, it's Saturday morning, I'm trying to sleep a little, and there's this knock. I've got the door locked, and there's this knocking on the door, and I'm bleary-eyed, half asleep. I open it up, and here's 4 of my little kids lined up. Give us our money, give us our money. It's allowance day, it's allowance day. And in my bleary mind, it's like I just opened the welfare window, and here's the line of people in the socialist economy wanting their money. And I'm like, what are we doing to our kids by giving them these handouts and thinking that's going to teach them how to handle money? And so we went to work with a bunch of other parents, and it's been a long time thing. We've had a lot of help from the Young Presidents Organization, putting together a family economy where you've got a family bank, and there's money in the bank, and there's a big lock on the bank, and each kid has a little checkbook, and each kid has certain things he's supposed to do each week as part of the family that are his responsibilities. He keeps track of them. He gets a little slip initialed each day, puts it in the box, and on Saturday it's not allowance day, it's payday. And you're the paymaster. I think dads ought to be the paymaster, get them more involved with their kids, but a mom can do it too. The bank is opened up, they total up their money, and how much they get paid is exactly according to how much work they did and how well they remembered it and how good a job they did. And so you're trying to mirror the real world right in your own home.
Okay, let me play devil's advocate here.
Good.
Why should I pay my kids for things that they should be doing anyway as a member of the family?
You shouldn't. You shouldn't pay them to clean their own room, for example. But let's say one of them's in charge of the back porch, and if the kid doesn't do it, you got to do it, or the maid's got to do it, or someone. And essentially, you're saying, you're part of this family. A certain amount of money comes into this family. If you do part of the work, you will get part of the money. Now see, this is the only thing we know to do, because you don't want your 7-year-old going outside the home. You used to be able to. You could go, you know, probably when you were 9, 10 years old, you could have a paper route or mow lawns. Kids today, that's much harder to do. So what you're trying to do is set up an economy in your home that's a mirror of the real economy. And once you get, here's the key to it, Glenn, once a kid feels like that's my money, I earned that money, now you turn over the purchase of all his stuff. If you want something, just like you said, if you want something, go buy it. If you break something, go replace it. And the mentality that goes into that of earning and saving, the bank can pay interest. You know, there's a lot of stuff.
What is the... I guess we're seeing it. I was going to say, what is the effect of not doing this? Because it really, it used to be paper routes. It used to be mow. I don't know. You try to get a kid in the neighborhood to go mow lawn. They won't do it.
No,
they won't do it.
Yeah.
Most parents, at least when I was living in Connecticut, which is a whole different world.
Whole different world.
But you live in Connecticut, a suburb of New York, and they will say, well, my kid's not going to mow a lawn. What do you mean your kid's not going to mow a lawn? You know what I say to my kid? Get your butt out with the lawnmower.
Yeah, and they can begin to supplement, but when they're really young, our whole deal is the earlier you start, the better. You start at 7 or 8, and they're not ready to go out and earn money outside the home, but they can do things in the home, keep track of it. The mentality changes. One more quick story. One of our boys comes home one day missing one of his shoes. And it's winter, and we live in Utah. And I'm like, son, where is your shoe? And he says, well, you know, the snow's melting, and we needed a boat, so I used the shoe. Well, where is the shoe? Well, it went under the road. It never came out. I'm like, do you know how much that shoe cost? And he looks at me, and now he realizes I'm a little mad. And he says, no, I don't know how much it cost, but it was actually your shoe because you bought it. And you'll have to go buy me another one now, won't you?
Wow.
You know, and after I'm over the urge to smack him, I'm thinking, he just taught me a lesson. He perceives no ownership of his shoe, of his shirt, of his toy. Why would he? He didn't do anything for it. He didn't work for it. Someone handed it to him. And so we've built this whole book around the idea of getting a kid to feel like, I earned that. I mean, we know that as adults. When you see a building condominiumized, you know, the renters suddenly are owners, and what do? They start taking care of everything. I mean, it's free enterprise. So what we ask readers, Glenn, is take a look at your own home. Have you got a socialist economy or a welfare economy going within the walls of your own home, or have you got a free enterprise economy? And that's where kids get pride. That's where they get self-esteem. That's where they get initiative. And then once you've done that, you're only a step away from saying, hey, now let's have you own your own goals and your own values and your own choices. Let's sit down and talk about your choices that you're going to make. When does it become
too late to do this?
How can I be honest and tell you that it's best to start early, but it's never too late. But the older a kid is, the harder it is to pull.
At what age?
That's why we call it the entitlement trap. Once they're in it, man, pulling them out.
What age?
I would start when they're starting school. That's about the right time. 6 years old, 7 years old. You know what? Because they're flattered by responsibility at that age. They're like, yeah, I can do this. I want to do this. Now, if you've got a 16-year-old, Glenn, I'm telling you, I would say to him, look, here's what I would do. I would say, you're going to go away to college in a couple of years. Let's put in play a little thing here where you have more control of your own money now, so you'll be ready when you go away in 2 years. That's how I'd handle him.
How do you, I mean, I never grew up. I remember asking my father if he would co-sign for a car loan when I was 18.
Yeah.
And he said, I can't do that, son. because we couldn't afford it. I had to pay for my own insurance. I had to pay for my own rent. I had to pay for everything. Yeah. When I left the house, I paid for everything.
That's why you're who you are, honestly. That's one thing that's gone into who you are. But kids don't, doesn't happen anymore.
How do we convince parents that, first of all, you don't need to go to Yale?
Yeah.
Some people might go to welding school.
Exactly.
So you don't need to have that label education. And it's not a guarantee. Nothing in life is guaranteed.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
So
you and I know that. These kids, that is a foreign thought to them. And it's not just
So if you're a 16-year-old and they say, well, I'm going to college because all my friends are going to go to college. And you as a parent, I believe, it is imperative to now say, no, you may not.
Yeah.
All your friends may go. You may not go.
Yeah. And do you know that the average American parent today, even somebody that's not making much money, honestly believes that the kid's college education is entirely on him? The thought of the kid actually working for part of that doesn't occur to most parents. And it is a tragedy. I'm telling you, we'd had this little economy going on in our family, and to see our kids step up to the bursar's office and write out their own check for a portion, just a portion, because heaven knows some of them picked expensive schools, but they paid, we negotiated, and they wrote out a check, and it was more zeros than they'd ever written on a check before, and tear it out and hand it to the bursar, and then look up at me and say, Dad, that's a lot of money. I'm going to work my butt off and study hard. And you say, I could never give you that. See, the problem parents have is they say, I want to give you self-esteem, I want to give you self-discipline, I want to give you self-mastery. None of those things can be given.
Everything has to be earned.
They have to be earned, they have to be developed, and we don't give our kids a chance. We put them in an environment of entitlement and indulgence, and then we expect them to somehow find responsibility. Where are they going to find it? How are they going to ever learn it?
One quick question, the last question is, the people who say not my kid, or my favorite, my kid understands. For a while I used to buy into that.
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah.
But they live in an environment. See, their friends are entitled, so they're swept away with that.
And it was an entirely different culture.
Totally.
Totally different culture. We learned it because we saw it on television, in movies, in our neighbors, in our families, we learned it that way.
Yeah.
We just, as adults, we expect them to, know better because we know better.
Exactly.
But nobody taught us by words, they taught us through examples back then.
That's exactly right. And you are you and others who are crusaders for personal responsibility and for the individual and not the collective. What we've all got to understand is that the ultimate way we're going to save this country is one family at a time. You know that. I mean, the families, here's the thing some people don't get, I think. The family is not only the basic unit of society, it's the basic unit of the economy. And if kids are growing up and coming out of our homes, look, we put this on our blog. We said, does anyone have an entitlement story? You would not believe it, Glenn. They were coming in for weeks. And some of them were from employers who say, I hire these kids, and in 1 week they're in my office demanding a raise and a title. And they haven't done anything to earn it.
Can I tell you something, though?
And where's my trophy?
Mercury, my company, we hire people who are interns all the time.
Sure.
But people who are entitled, they don't last long.
They don't
They're
last.
gone.
Exactly.
They're gone. The other people, there is another mindset out there of people who are like, wait a minute. I can actually do this? Wait a minute.
Yeah, they're privileged for it. They love it.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're starving for it.
Exactly.
And they will accomplish everything if you hold them responsible, if you give them the keys.
Right.
Here's the key.
Right.
You screw it up, it's all you, but here are the keys. There is a group of people out there that are starving, and it just they rock it to the top.
And if you want your kid to be one of those, which we all do, that's who we want for our kid, right? It's one of those hungry people who wants to do well. You've got to start young with them in their home, because that's why we call the book The Entitlement Trap. Once a kid's in it, it is so tough getting them out.
The name of the book is How to Rescue Your Child with a New Family System of Choosing, Earning, and Ownership. It is the Entitlement Trap. How long ago did you print this? When did I call you?
It's only been 3 years, and it's still
It's only been.
Well, you and I
like
talked 2 years
lifetime.
ago. Yeah, it's only been 2 years.
Wow.
A lot's happening to you.
Wow.
But this one's more for the grown-ups, Glenn.
Right.
I mean, this is. In fact, I'll tell you something interesting about why we put them together. This one says ownership is the key to getting kids to feel responsibility.
Yeah.
This one says when you're a little older and you want a more spiritual paradigm, guess what? Ownership is not all you want. You want stewardship. You want to understand that everything actually belongs to God. And that's even a stronger motivation than ownership.
I read this. I think I read this in one night. I read this. It is a phenomenal, phenomenal book. Start applying them in your life, for your life and your children's life.
Hey, real pleasure, Glenn.
God bless you.
Take care.
See you again.
All right.
Really good. Really good.